Today is October 27th, 2010, and we are at the home of Camielle Schumacker in Marysville. I'm Ann Horvath, and John Birchbeck is working the camera for us today. Camielle, where were you born?
Jersey City, New Jersey.
And who were your parents?
Angelina Diadamo and Luigi Diadamo.
Were they immigrants directly from Italy?
My father was from north of Naples, and my mother was born in Newark, New Jersey, but her parents were from Italy.
Ah. Did you have brothers and sisters?
I had 5 brothers, and we were 5 sisters.
So it was a big family.
A big family.
Did you go to school in New Jersey?
I went to school number 5 in Jersey City, where we walked to school every day. And if it rained, we got off in the afternoon.
And did you go on to you finished high school there?
I went to Ferris High School for 2 years and went on to Dickinson High School because their academic classes were different and I needed them.
Because of something you wanted to do?
They had better art classes.
And so you did a lot of artwork,
yes,
even as
yes.
a young person?
And I graduated from Dickinson High School. And then I went to Hunter College in New York City for 2.5 years. Then I ran out of money, so I didn't go anymore. And that college was all-girl college, and then it just turned into co-ed right after the war. So it was very nice. I like it.
Yeah. When did you meet your husband?
Met my husband in 1946 and a half in Staten Island, New York. AT&T company in New York City had a USO program where girls can get on a bus and go to Halloran Hospital where they were situated, and we danced and had lunch with them and dinner, and no fraternizing, just dancing with them, talk to them, and that's how I met him.
And how long was it before you got married?
About 1.5 years. We're married.
Where was he from?
St. Paul, Minnesota.
And what kind of service experience did he have?
He was in the medical corps.
And so, where did you live after you got married?
After we got married, we lived in Jersey City, New Jersey. And we moved to my sister's house in Long Island for about 1 year. Then we moved back to Jersey City again. And then we moved later on again.
So after, how did you get to Maryland?
Well, he was transferred to Fort Dick, New Jersey, and came to see me on weekends. And he loved my family loved him. And he was not Italian, and he was not a Catholic, and they still loved him. That was his favorite. So then we moved to Maryland, because he was working in New York City, and they offered him a job here in Maryland, and we just moved the whole family and just came to Maryland.
What kind of work did he do?
He worked as a computer programmer.
And he worked for Social Security?
Yes, the Department of Health and Human Services.
And so, how did you get to Marysville?
Oh, wow. Well, after we moved to Maryland, we already had 5 children.
Okay.
So his mother was ill, and he wanted to go to the university and finish his college studies. So we moved again. The whole family went to Minnesota for about 5 years. And then we came back to Jersey City and then came to Maryland.
Okay. And how did you select the area here to live?
Friends of ours were already living here in the area, and they told us about this property that was for sale, and we liked it. But we also liked the home that we were in, so we had to kind of force ourselves to come here, but it was country-like, and we loved it. So that's how we're here. It's 1960. We bought the property in 1963, and we came and built a house in 1965.
Okay. So you have seen a lot of changes in the area since 1965.
Yes, yes.
When you first moved here, where did you go shopping?
in Randallstown, Maryland.
Randallstown was the closest.
Yes.
Closer
Yeah.
to you. And what was Liberty Road like then?
Well, Liberty Road was quiet. You didn't really have to watch out for too much, and there were no lines on the roads yet, and they weren't paved. And getting to Westminster was like an experience.
Didn't go to Westminster too often.
No.
Where did your children go to school?
They went to Freedom Elementary and Sykesville High School. My oldest son, Bill, was the last graduating class from Sykesville High School.
Oh.
And my daughter, Janice, was the first graduating student from South Carroll High School.
Do you remember the years?
The year, see, 48? 68.
68, yeah.
68.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. So you have 6 children total, lots of grandchildren.
Yes, 15 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren.
And do lots of them live in this area?
Well, pretty close. The farthest is about 50 minutes away.
Oh.
So I get to see them all the time, as you can test. They're here all the time, visiting in and out of the house, which is great.
Your husband is passed away a few years ago?
Yes, almost 7.5 years.
But he had worked for Social Security most of his career.
Yes.
How about yourself? Did you work outside the home at all, or?
Well, when I was younger, I worked in New York City because I lived in Jersey City, and it was very easy to get to New York. And I hand painted buttons, little tiny buttons. You just hand painted them. Then I came here and I worked in a restaurant for a while. And then I worked for the Department of Recreation here in Carroll County for a little while for the Freedom District area. And actually a few of us started this Freedom District area here. And then now I think they gave it another name now. And that was nice to do that. I like that.
When you said you started that group, exactly?
Well, it was from the PTA.
Right.
PTA, a spin-off from the PTA. We wanted to do.
The children would have some activities.
Yes, exactly. And we used the schools to have activities. And I was the director of Eldersburg Schools summer program. And that was nice. And we had a program that went on from 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. It was a complete program. We had music and dance and arts and crafts. It was very nice. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Good things for the children, too.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your artwork. What are the kind of things that you do?
Well, I knew how to draw, and I liked drawing since I was like 8 years old. Copied things out of magazines and books. And my mother sent one of my drawings away to a company, an art institute, and they liked what they saw, and they came to visit us for me to join them. But we didn't have the money to do such a thing.
Right.
So I never joined them. So I just painted what I felt like painting. And,
so you never really had any specific training other than what you had in college?
Right. Yeah.
But you've used the artwork. I understand you do your own Christmas cards?
Yes. I do Christmas cards every year. I think the year that my husband died, I didn't make any Christmas cards that year. And I have about 75 people that I send cards to, and I paint or draw or color them one by one.
How do you keep yourself occupied now? You sound like a lady who's always been busy.
I've always been busy, and I still am busy. Most of the times I go on weekends to visit my children. They always said, "Mom, come over this weekend. Mom, come over Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday." And I do. I go and visit them all the time. And they're here a lot of times. And years ago, we had company all the time. Company from New Jersey, company from out of town. My father was living with me. My niece lived with me. My brother lived with me. Bill's brother lived with me. So we had people here all the time, constantly either living with us or visiting.
Lots of parties.
Lots of parties, yeah. Especially on 4th of July. We would have about 60, 70 people here. And we would have a live band even.
Oh,
and
wow.
we had fireworks. And were you here the year when we had a cannon? We had a cannon go woof. And the police came. And we said, well, we're celebrating America. And he just, okay, that's okay, but watch what you're doing. But that was a fun year. Every 4th of July was a fun year.
What about other organizations? Do you go to one of the local churches?
I belong to a Messiah Lutheran Church.
Out on Liberty Road.
On Old Liberty Road, yes.
Yeah.
Very nice church. Lots of people there, very friendly. And we enjoy each other's company and like the sermons. And once in a while I will lecture at the church a couple of times a year. And that's nice. And our church has a great big strawberry festival.
Oh, yes.
Every year. And it's held at Sykesville Fire Department's grounds. And it's very, very successful. So we use that money to build a new building, a big schoolrooms. And the church gets a little bit in debt. We use money for that.
How about Sykesville? Do you ever go down into Sykesville itself? Or?
Oh, yes. I like Sykesville. In fact, every time we have company from out of town, we always bring them to Sykesville because it's a cute little town.
Lots of changes in Elversburg since you've moved here.
Yes, stores, and too many banks and too many stores and too many grocery stores. But there are changes, yes.
Very crowded.
Yeah.
What about your children? What kind of work do they do? Do they live?
Well, Jim was a manager for the Sykesville town of Sykesville, and the younger children. Let's see.
He was town manager for a number of years.
Then he went to Union Bridge, was town manager there.
Oh, okay.
And then he went to Tawnytown and was town manager there.
Okay.
And now he's going on a different path. He's going to work for a religious organization in Littlestown. Oh. And he's going to run some kind of conference center. So he's going to enjoy that. That's a new project for him.
New challenge.
Yes.
But he's always worked around Carroll County.
Yes.
Like.
Yeah. And my oldest son, Bill Jr., he was working after college, and he was in an automobile accident, which resulted in him dying. 26 years later, they operated on his head to remove some of the seizures he was getting from the automobile accident.
He had some
brain damage, yes. And but Bill was, I think, the brightest one of my children. And had he lived, I think he would have been a dean of some big college today. I really believe that.
He was
believe that, yes.
Talented,
yeah. And all the boys in the family had a band, a school band.
Oh my goodness!
And we were bringing them to practice, and they had practice here. So it was a lively house all the time. And the girls went to Girl Scouts or dance school. And they all had their own little jobs. They're all married now and have their own children. Yes.
And the grandchildren, you make sure that they get some of those special extracurricular kinds of activities.
Yes.
Dance
sometimes
and
they'll
art.
Oh, yes, they all do that. Yes, they're all in something, or baseball. Yeah. In fact, my daughter, I couldn't think of her name all of a sudden.
That's okay.
My granddaughter, her school, she goes to the Church of the Open Door.
Oh, yeah.
And their soccer team won the state championship this year.
Oh, wow.
So that was nice. That was Lauren.
Now you have some notes there. Some other things that you wanted to bring up that I haven't asked you about.
Well, this is where I was born and met my husband. Let's see, what else? Okay, how about the hobbies?
Yes.
Okay, my husband's hobby was reading. He was an avid reader. He can read a book a day. And when he went to the library, he'd bring home a stack of books this big and read them all. And he also loved model railroading. And he loved the stories and writing about the Civil War. In fact, I always expected him to write a book about the Civil War, but he never got into it. Yeah. And we also, of course, my painting is my hobby, and I collect little tiny dolls, and I collect candle snuffers.
Oh, interesting.
And, of course, I draw and paint a lot. I do that. And we belong to the Order Sons of Italy in America, but we don't belong now. We left them quite a few years ago. And also the Foresters of United States, the Foresters Organization. So that was kind of nice. We went to dances and got the chance to be dressed formal and go to big parties and see a lot of political figures. So it was very nice. I enjoyed that.
Now, he was a very German family. But you did live out in Minnesota for a while, so you got to know his family a little bit.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
They're very different life than New Jersey.
Oh, yes, the beautiful, beautiful people. In fact, my son Jim and I just went to St. Paul to visit the rest of the family there, my husband's family. And they were so happy to see us, and we got some genealogy from them and pictures and photos. So we had a successful trip.
So your son got to see a little bit of his father's roots, too.
And right now he's making copies of all the old photos of. He never saw his great-grandfather, which he got to see a picture of him.
Oh, how exciting.
So he's making copies of all those pictures and stories that my husband's cousin, was telling us. So I'm very, very close to his family. I wish we lived closer together, though.
Yeah, it's quite a distance.
Yes,
yeah. Do they occasionally come here to visit?
Yes, not recently, because they're all older now.
Right.
They're all older. But they used to come quite often. In fact, one winter, I should say, in January, trying to think of what year that was, 70, 75. It was very, very warm in January. So my husband went down the basement, picked up all the lawn chairs, and they all sat outside. And my cousins from Minnesota just loved it. They sat down there and just enjoyed the sun. They couldn't get over it. It was like about almost 80 degrees in January.
Right.
And they loved it. So that was a nice experience and something nice to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it would never be 80 degrees out in Minnesota in January.
No, but I don't know. The weather's been changing.
Well, that's
we don't
true.
know. They might see that. They might see that. Maybe not in our day.
Yeah. I see, and you love your cats.
I love my cats, yeah. This is a new one. She's been a year old now. Before that, I always had a cat or a dog. I didn't get a dog again because I only like German Shepherds. Not that I don't like other cats, but the German Shepherds I like, but they're too much to take care of for me without my husband here.
Yeah.
And they're expensive, too, to take care of. You got a big vet bill all the time.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I like animals. The only animal I do not like is a mouse. I do not like mice. Otherwise, I like everything.
Well, the mice do tend to move in
They
this
do.
time of the year.
They do.
So they
Oh,
can
yes.
be a problem.
Yeah.
So the cat maybe helps a little bit.
Yeah.
With the mice.
My cat brought up a snake from the basement the other day. I was sitting in that chair, and she just dropped it here for a present for me. And it was about 1.5 feet long, but not very fat. It was a skinny snake. And I was here by myself, and I said, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It's alive. And it was wiggling, you know. I didn't know what to do, so I just took my gray cells, you know, got a broom and shoved it out the door and put something heavy over it and called this grandson that you just met, Eric. Please come here. There's a snake on the porch. Get rid of it for me. He came over, and he said, Grandma, by the time I got here, the snake was dead because whatever you put on it was a planter, and it killed us. Oh, look at that. Leaves.
Leaves coming
Pretty
down.
leaves are coming down.
Yes.
And he got rid of the snake for me.
Oh, how neat.
I'm not too terrified of snakes.
Yeah, it sounds like you handled that pretty well.
When we first moved here, the first year we were here, we had a yellow ringneck snake. The mother used to come in every year for about 30 years and have 14 little babies. And we would count them. Each time we would kill one. That's number 14. There won't be any more. But the last 3 years, for some reason, she hasn't been coming in. So I haven't seen her. Now, the year before that, my other cat, her name was Fossey, and she used to kill whatever was down there and shakes them. And you'd find a dead one here and there. So that's our experience with snakes in the house.
Well, you live in sort of a wooded area. So,
Yes,
so you have to kind of deal with the
Yeah.
wildlife that way.
I have another story about a snake if you want.
Okay, sure.
Oh, my husband and I were outside, and then he came in the house, and I went to trim some flowers in the front of the house, and all of a sudden I bent my head down. There was this great big snake looking up at me like a cobra with his mouth and head open, and his neck was curled, and I just didn't know what to do. I stayed still, and I called my husband Bill. He came out, and when he came out, it started moving in front of the lawn. So he got a cardboard box and covered it, and I called the Nature Society in Carroll County, and I described it to them. They said, it sounds like a hognose. They're very rare. Would you like to bring it in? And I says, yeah, I'll bring it in for you. So we put it in the cardboard box and brought it up to Nature Center, and they had it on display for about 2 years.
Oh,
It was very nice, yeah. That was interesting, yes, it was.
So you have had, do you see a lot of deer here?
Quite a lot of deer. Right now, they're kind of quiet for some reason. And sometimes they'll come in hordes to 10, 11, 12 and run across the back of the yard.
When you first moved here, do you remember seeing very many deer?
Yes, oh yes.
Even from the very beginning?
Yes, from the very beginning, yes.
Because years ago, there were a lot less deer, so I just...
Yeah, no, they were here. Sometimes they get really close to the house and they walk around the car. And I take photos of them, but as soon as I get out there and snap, they run away. They don't like to be near you too much. So they're pretty, though.
Yeah. John?
You covered most of the things. I remember all the parties we had here, like you said, the 4th of July parties.
Yes.
We had one of the story about the cannon. One of the son-in-laws was a Civil War enactor, and he actually brought a real live cannon that they used in the Civil War enactments. And when they did that, as Camielle said, the police came and wanted to know what was going on. We just laughed, and they laughed, and they laughed.
Realized it was just a family activity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of too much more. I know Camielle's been very active in the senior center here as well.
Not active. I go to the senior center, but I haven't been too active. And they have art classes there, so I like to brush up on things.
And meet some other people interested in art.
Yes, oh yes, it's an art class, Very, very nice.
Who teaches the class, do you remember?
Miriam,
it's okay.
not Shipley. I can't think of her name right now.
It's not important, but they do have some art classes.
Yes, they have art classes. They have other interest people, pool, bingo. They play cards. They have lunches and parties, and people come in to give entertainment. They play the piano.
Did your husband play pool?
Yes. He was a good pool player. Yes, he enjoyed that. Yes, very much. Yeah.
And he read and he liked pool.
Yes,
too.
He didn't get to play too much, but he did like it.
Yeah, Johnny mentioned that occasionally they spent some time playing pool
yes,
together.
Occasionally. Yes.
Okay.
And I like to, when I was in high school, I played ping pong, and I won the junior championship for my high school.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of a sporty thing for me.
All right. Well.
Oh, I also worked for the Sykesville Herald.
Oh, really?
And I wrote a
and
column, Human Interest Stories, and I wrote a cooking column every week for the old Sykesville Herald.
What year is about?
Gee, that was 68, 75-ish. The paper is no longer in existence.
Right.
Yeah. I went to interview all the people that I was writing about, and I got their recipes.
Oh,
and sometimes they would actually make the whole recipe for me, and we would get to eat it. And I would write about the people and how they made it and where they lived. It was a nice column. I enjoyed doing it.
Were there photographs associated with that?
Yes, sometimes there were, yes. I even interviewed my own son, Morton. He used to always cook around the house. He loved cooking. So he was one of the interviewers. Yeah. So let's see, what else have we got here? Oh, I also like to travel to see my family in Italy.
Oh, have you been to Italy?
Yeah, I've been there. And
Tell
but
me a
my
little about
husband
that.
didn't want to fly, so I always went with my daughter and her husband. It's a cute story about that.
Tell
You'd
me.
like to hear it.
Yes.
My daughter works for the government, her and her husband, and she has to travel a lot, so she had to go to Rome. She says, "Mommy, do you still have that address of the cousins in Italy? Because I've never seen them or heard from them for a long, long, long time." I says, "Yes, this is what I have." So when she went down there, and they lived in a little village called Cellule, and they had to find a certain address, and she met an old lady at the little square. She's, "Oh, I know who you're talking about," in Italian. This was all in Italian. And they live right here, and she took us to the door. And when my daughter got to the door, on the nameplate on the door was Luigi Diadamo, which is my father's name.
Oh my
And
gosh.
this was his nephew.
Ah.
So I'm getting shivers just thinking about when she read that name. And they opened the door, and she said, "Oh," and he said, "Oh, you're from America." And he was excited, and he was just couldn't get over somebody from America came to see him. So within an hour, there were 52 people in his house, and all kinds of food. They were, they were all excited to see somebody from America.
A relative.
A relative, yes. And then he had a brother that lived next door, and another brother that lived down the road, and a sister that came, and all the nieces and nephews. They had a good time. But my daughter and her husband could not stay any longer, so they left that very night. And he spoke quite a lot of Italian, so they were able to get along.
Yeah.
That was nice. And they said, "Next time you come, bring your mother," which was me.
Yeah.
So next time they went, I did go.
You did go, and you got to meet
I
lots
got to meet
of...
everybody, and they were just the most wonderful people I could ever have.
Now, do you speak Italian?
Very, very little. Poco poco.
Okay. But you got to see all these people
Yes.
and get some idea of
Yes.
that family group there.
Yes, they were just wonderful people. I don't know, I had a different vision of Italy and some European countries. I thought they were all like very poor, or down, but they were just wonderful. They all had nice houses, they had plenty to eat, and they were all very nice. The girls were modern looking, the guys were handsome, so it was nice. I was glad to see that. Yeah, very glad.
What was the incentive for your family to come here from?
Of course, there was no work in Italy at that time.
Yeah.
Very, very little work.
There was some hard times.
Yes. So my father, two brothers. My father was Luigi. His brothers were Raphael and Giovanni, which is John, and a sister called Christina. And those four came to America. And there was one brother that was left. He was 4 years old, and they didn't want to take him because he was too young. So that's the 4-year-old that's in Italy now. These are all his family.
Oh my. Yeah.
So then my father married my mother.
And now she was of Italian descent.
Yes, she was also Italian descent, yes.
But her family had been in the country for another generation or so?
Not that long, not too long ago. Yeah, she was born here, but they had just arrived here.
So she was the first generation born here.
Yes.
And they had come here.
Right.
And did they come from a similar part of Italy?
Her family came from a town called Aberdeen near Abruzzi, Italy, which is on the west side of Italy.
So they really didn't have any
area.
connection.
No, they didn't. No.
Did they meet because they lived in an Italian community?
An Italian neighborhood, which was a wonderful neighborhood. We had not had only Italians. We had German, Jewish, Polish, and a lot of black people. So it was a wonderful neighborhood to grow up in. Just beautiful, beautiful people. It was just wonderful. I remember we had 3 doors down. There was a black family. I can say black now because they were black then. And they used to come over and eat with us. And we had a stairwell that led up to the bedrooms in the kitchen. And they used to sit on the stairs, 5 or 6 of these black children, and eat with us all the time. And we went over their house, and there was a lot of fraternization there. It was very, very nice.
Very interesting mix of groups in the neighborhood. So you kind of got to know a little bit about everybody.
Everybody, yes. Yeah.
That was pre-segregation days.
Yeah. So
oh, yes. Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah. Everything.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Been an interesting experience hearing about you and your life.